Hello and welcome to another episode of the Popcorn Conspiracy. I'm Dave G, and joining me tonight is my co-host.
Hello everybody, I'm Kyle.
And tonight we're taking a look at something a little bit lighthearted. Of course, in the last episode we took a look at Terrence Malick. This time we're looking at exactly the opposite of what Terrence Malick would make. We're taking a look at the new comedy Like a Boss, which stars Salma Hayek, Rose Byrne, and Tiffany Haddish. Now, this is one of those movies where it kind of sets up very, very early on what's going to happen. Mel and Mia, played by Rose Byrne and Tiffany Haddish, run a cosmetics company together. Now, Mia has all these great ideas, and a lot of those ideas are brought to life by this very, very smart guy who's able to work with cosmetics and do whatever they ask for, called Barrett, played by Billy Porter. The business side seems to be helped along a lot by Sydney, Jennifer Coolidge, who works in the store as well. But there's a bit of a problem. Mel can see that their company is swallowing up money and they're getting further and further into debt, despite the fact that Mia likes to tell people that the business is running really, really well. She doesn't get to see the books and doesn't know exactly what's happening. Then all of a sudden, they are contacted by mega billionaire Claire Luna, played by Salma Hayek, who has her own cosmetics empire, and she approaches them about buying the company of Mel and Mia and running it as part of her company. Mel jumps at the idea because she thinks this way that they can save the company and have a little bit of a hold over what they're doing. At the same time, Mia kind of fights against it, but eventually relents when Claire says, look, you guys can actually have 51% sharehold, but if one of you drop out, then I get their share, which means she basically controls the company. Now, mate, I've got to ask, what did you think of this comedy? Because for me, this one, it kind of frustrated me a little bit because of some of the stuff that happened in it.
Yeah, I mean, going into this, I knew it was a chick flick, and the trailer, I'll be honest, the trailer made it look awful.
Yeah.
And we've seen that in the past with a lot of movies where the trailers have been really bad, made the movie look like it was going to be really bad, and then it turned out that it was really entertaining. This wasn't quite that. The movie, I thought, really, it was indeed quite bad. The story, it's pretty much the same story as Horrible Bosses 2, but crossed with Bridesmaids, where two lifelong best friends trying to build their small business up, they join up with a much more successful entrepreneur who eventually betrays them to make a few extra bucks. The problem was that this movie kind of lacks the creativity of Horrible Bosses 2 and the humor of that.
Yeah.
Or the heart and the legitimacy that Bridesmaids had. Horrible Bosses 2 was actually a movie, I think Jason Bateman came out and said, that they shouldn't have done that it was just, they were living off the success of the first movie and they shouldn't have made it. And yet that was still more entertaining. It was still funnier than this movie was. Whereas, this just, it feels like a movie with no heart, and it feels like a movie that's just not particularly funny.
Yeah.
What did you think of it, dude?
Yeah, look, I walked into this movie expecting absolutely zero. I saw the trailer, and I actually thought the trailer made the movie look so bad. I wasn't actually expecting a media screening. There's kind of like, there's three stages. For people listening out there that don't get invited to media screenings, there's normally like three different ways that you get when it comes to like the media and a movie. You either get an invite that comes in and you get to see the movie about a month or 2 weeks before it comes out, or you get an invite that comes and you're invited to a screening the night before it comes out. Now, when you get an invite for the night before it comes out, it normally means that the film is either embargoed in the United States because it's opening a week later, or it is so bad that they kind of don't want a lot of reviews out there before the film opens. The third option is they don't do a media screening at all. That's normally when a film is absolutely terrible and they don't want any reviews out there at all about the movie. So, look, I was expecting no screening at all for this film. We did get a screening the night before. Like I said, that does normally tell me something, especially when I realized that there was no embargo on this film. But I was expecting a zero with this movie. It looked so bad from the trailer that the fact that when I first started to watch this movie, I kind of liked Mel and Mia. I kind of like found that as a bit of a surprise because the film was like kind of impressing me more than what I thought. But what I found with this movie that really wrecked it was it didn't feel like it knew what kind of comedy it wanted to go for. Like, one of the funniest scenes in this movie is when we realize that Mel and Mia have never really grown up from what they were like at college, and while all their friends are married and having kids and living in mansions, they're basically living in Mia's mum's house, which they wouldn't even have if she hadn't passed away. Like, Mel can't afford to live on her own. She's got to live with her friend. And they go to this party and they smoke dope in a bedroom and then realize that one of their friend's babies is in that room and, like, has been inhaling the smoke. That kind of humor to me works. Like, for a while I thought, okay, so Rose Byrne has kind of attracted another one of these comedies like she's done with Bridesmaids and that she's done with, like, Bad Neighbors. I'm trying to think. I think it was just called Neighbors in America, but Bad Neighbors for our Australian listeners. I thought, okay, so she's doing another stoner comedy, which I kind of like her in, and I think it works. But then everything just kind of fell away. And I think that kind of fell away with the introduction of Salma Hayek's character, because she was just a walking cliche. She was the kind of character that we've seen so many times in a film when somebody runs a big corporation. Like, the only thing that made her interesting was that she's the kind of person that will, like, to get away in a meeting, will pick up a golf club and smash the table or something like that. Like, everything else was so cliched. And then after her character came in, everything in this movie suddenly felt cliched. Like, all of that early humor that seemed to work went completely out the window. They had a great time early on where they were playing around with the fact that Jennifer Coolidge's character is supposed to be like the face of the store, but she's gone through this depressive breakup with her husband, and like she brings everything back to how lonely she is and how depressed she is. That goes out the window. Like, for the second half of this movie, you don't see any of that. And then things in this film that happen are resolved within like a few minutes. There's a fight between two characters. It's resolved all within like a few minutes. One character is fired and gets pissed off with the others. It's resolved within a few minutes. I think, I hate borrowing from another critic, but we were talking to the legendary Jim Shembry after this film, and he said the film felt like they ran out of money and had to wrap it up. And he's right. That's exactly how this felt. It also felt like they lost their writers for the second half of the film and had to get the intern to sit down and write the script, because the movie just kind of like peters out, which is saying something when it only goes for 83 minutes in the first place.
Yeah, I think a big problem with the movie was it had a real lack of heart.
Yeah.
A big deal is made throughout the movie of the relationship between Mel and Mia, and the main threat is the breakdown of that friendship, and this is really what Claire Luna, Salma Hayek's character, wants, because it'll net her the majority stake in their company.
Yeah.
But I never really believed the friendship between these two characters. They tried to hammer it in through their actions and some exposition, like where one character, do you remember that time when we were teenagers and blah, 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 blah? But I don't really think that Rose Byrne and Tiffany Haddish really had that great chemistry together, which made it work.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, I think before Dawson's Creek, I think that they sent the cast on.
Yeah.
Yeah, they sent the cast on like this kind of bonding experience, so that they would have this natural chemistry together when it came to making the show. So they would feel like friends. They'd been friends for a while, and they have those kind of chemistry screencasts and stuff like that while they're casting a movie, and it just felt like none of that really happened here. I think Rose Byrne and Tiffany Haddish, I think they're both likable enough actresses in their own way, and I think that they're both really funny. I really did like Rose Byrne in a lot of the comedies that she's made recently. But just here, it felt very much like the movie Rough Night, where it didn't feel like any of the actors who were supposed to be playing, they were supposed to have been friends for years. It didn't feel like any of them had actually met each other prior to the cameras rolling.
Yep.
And whereas with something like Bridesmaids, that was a movie that was written by Kristen Wiig and one of her best friends, and it starred Kristen Wiig and another one of her best friends. So even though Kristen Wiig and Maya Rudolph didn't really spend much time one-on-one in the film, that friendship and that lifelong relationship felt legitimate. I don't like giving an inch to... I'm not sure exactly why this is, but I mean, I don't like giving an inch at all to the people that say that you can't have an able-bodied actor playing a disabled character, you can't have a straight actor playing a gay character, and you can't have a white guy like Quentin Tarantino writing a movie about slavery like Django Unchained. But I looked at the writing cast for this movie, and it seemed that there was a woman involved in the story, in coming up with the story for the film, but the screenplay and the movie itself was written by a male writing duo who had mostly only worked on YouTube series in the past.
Yep.
And, I mean, there's plenty of great female characters and stories written by men, but I don't know, maybe if that may have added something to why this relationship, which is central to the film, just felt a bit forced, because it was this girl and a girl relationship, this two-woman relationship, which is being written by two guys who don't really know how women interact with each other.
Yeah.
I don't know, what did you think about that, dude?
Yeah, I felt that too. Like, there was little bits that I liked. There was a great scene where they were both getting up of the morning and they were, like, in the bathroom together, and Mel knows that Mia's going to reach for the toothpaste and the toothbrush at a certain time, so she puts the toothpaste on the brush for her. I liked that, but then later on, that felt like that was almost put in there to force that, oh yeah, they're friends, look how well they know each other. Yeah. Because, I don't know, like, even when the whole approach happened from Claire Luna, and Mia was so against it, Mel seemed to jump at it way too quickly. Like, you would assume that, like, two friends who have been friends for a long time would talk about something like that. Like, say if someone came in and wanted to buy our podcast, we've been friends for so many years that we would sit down and talk to each other about it and have a long think about it and listen to each other. Whereas this one here, like, Mia picks up warning signals straight away about what Claire's like, and Mel just kind of dismisses it, like, oh, no, we need this because we need the money. It's like, she doesn't even look at any other options. Like, yeah, like, the whole thing felt so forced. Like, it just felt like one of those movies where they want to make a quick buck off the film, so they've gone and grabbed, like, a couple of recognizable comedic actresses to put them in the roles, but then everything's gone to crap. Like, one of my first thoughts with this movie was, I want to know the pedigree behind this film, because it almost feels like someone had an idea for a short film, someone's tried to expand it, or one writer had written the first quarter of it, then another writer got brought on board to finish it off. There's just so many things in this movie that doesn't feel right. And then the fact that it ends after just 83 minutes, that's, like, incredibly short for today's cinema. There was episodes of Game of Thrones that went longer than this film. Like, it almost feels ridiculous. Like, it doesn't happen in movies these days. And I'm guessing, like, the entire thing was rushed, because, like you said before, there's so many productions these days where actors will work together so that they get that feeling of how they feel. And I'm going to name drop here, but I interviewed Richard Roxburgh today and was talking to him about his new movie, H is for Happiness, and he talked about the fact that he did a fair bit of work before that film started with Emma Booth, who plays his wife, and Daisy Axon, who plays his daughter, so that they bonded together like a family on screen, which seems weird because they're a fractured family. But it almost feels like they did more work with that movie to make that feel like a family than what this movie did to make Rose Byrne and Tiffany Haddish feel like they'd been friends for years. Because